Okay, well, this is more information on minerals. What I'd like you to do, please, is add in any notes that you think are important to the notes that you've already taken from your homework. So, if you look here, we can see that minerals are valuable in our society in lots of ways. We use some of these examples here. Iron, obviously we use that in lots of industrial ways. Copper's been really valuable lately. You may have heard of people, they have been stealing copper from construction sites for wiring and things like that because of its value. You know the value of gold and silver, diamonds, platinums, rubies, emeralds. Those are obviously used in mostly for jewelry. Halite is rock salt. We use that on our roads in the wintertime. And then calcite is lime. We use that in agriculture often to change the soil to make the conditions better for growing crops. So what is a mineral then? Well, we have 4 characteristics that are true for all minerals. Inorganic, that doesn't mean food. What we're talking about there really is that the chemicals, the elements in minerals are not made from living things, meaning that they are found in nature and they didn't have to be made in a plant or an animal or other living thing. So they're found naturally. That's the naturally occurring part, meaning that they're not necessarily made in a lab setting. They have a specific chemical composition. We'll talk more about that when I return, but basically what that means is that you know that there are elements and molecules. And if we look at the example of quartz, that's that clear crystal on the top right, quartz has a chemical composition of SiO2, SiO2 meaning silica and 2 oxygen. And so that is the elements that are found in quartz are always going to be the same. So every mineral has a specific chemical composition. Some are elemental, so gold is pure gold would just have that element gold in them. The other part is that they have a crystal structure, and what that refers to is this idea that the elements themselves are arranged in a specific way at an elemental level, at an atom level, and then that structure follows that all the way out to this view we can see here on the larger structure. So if you look at the bottom left, you can see that it has more of like a pyramid type structure. The one to the bottom right, you can see those more boxy type structures on those. So these form crystals. You know crystals because you know of snowflakes. So there's a link on this page to follow, and I would like you to go ahead and read that about snowflakes a little bit later. Okay, so minerals are formed in 2 basic ways. You've read about these in your book. Magma is basically molten rock, melted rock underneath the Earth's surface. So this picture here is actually not magma, because once magma erupts to the surface, that's called lava. But magma is basically molten rock. Well, rocks are made of many types of minerals. Most rocks are made of several minerals mixed together. So how do we get minerals from them? Well, it's a little bit more rare than to get a specific mineral by itself forming from magma. And there are specific characteristics, specific features for specific situations that are required for magma to form minerals by themselves individually. Solution, that's one that you're going to learn a little bit more in the video you watch later. Solution means that you have minerals in water, and then as that water evaporates or as it moves, it can leave those minerals behind. So this picture here is of a cavern, of a cave, and those things are called stalactites. They're tight when they hang on to the ceiling. The ones that grow up from the bottom are called stalagmites. So the minerals that are left behind from water, that's called being in solution, and they come out of the solution and then they're left behind there. So this guy is looking at a particular crystal that was formed in in a cave, and that's an example of a more rare type of mineral. If you look here, you can click on that link, 3,000 minerals. There are very many different types of minerals. Obviously, most of those are not as common as some of the most common ones on Earth, and we're going to be investigating some more common ones next class. So minerals can be grouped based on their composition, the things that make them up. So silicates, mica, quartz, and feldspar. Mica is that shiny flat one to the right. Quartz you've seen before, it's clear and whitish. Feldspar is a very common mineral you'll be looking at. It's more pink. Those all have silica in them, so they form the silicate group. Carbonates, calcite and dolomite, those, calcite's the whitish one here, they have carbon in them, obviously, carbon and oxygen. Carbonates have both carbon and oxygen in them. Oxides, hematite and magnetite, those tend to be your darker metal-looking minerals. So this one here is hematite. I have some magnetite in the room. It's the rocks that are magnetic. And then obviously elemental, we mentioned before. So finally, we have some different ways of identifying what minerals are what. Beyond just looking at the chemical composition and the structure, we could do that. But if we're on the field and we want to know what some minerals are, these things might be some tests that we could run to help us identify them. So color is a non-determining characteristic of minerals, but that means is some minerals come in various colors. So quartz, for example, comes in a whitish, a clear, and a rose color. So by seeing the color alone, that's not going to definitely tell us what mineral it is. The other thing is that obviously many minerals come in the same color, so you can see halite and calcite can both be clear, and color by itself would not identify that for us. Luster, we're going to be looking at, basically there's a few different types of luster. Luster talks about how light reflects off of that mineral. So we have metallic luster, which means that you can see light reflect like a metal would. If you look at a chrome type metal or another kind of silvery type metal, that would be metallic, the way the light reflects off of it. Non-metallic would be pretty much many other things that you don't see the light shining back in a mirror type way. There is another luster called pearly luster, which we will see in this class. Pearly is what it sounds like. It looks more like a pearl. Texture, I'm not going to talk too much about texture. Streak is another way of identifying minerals. You read in your text that streak means that you are looking at the powder left behind from a mineral. So if you were to grind up a mineral, you can see the powder would have a different color. We test streak by rubbing a mineral on a streak plate, which is a ceramic plate, and looking at the color of that scrape that's left behind. Hardness, you also read about in your book that hardness has a scale from 1 to 10. You probably remember that diamond is the hardest mineral there is. That's a 10. There are no other minerals harder than a diamond. And Mohs scale is just it's a relative scale. Mohs is a person, and that's why it has that name. And then the talc is the softest mineral that we have, which is a number 1. And we're going to be testing hardness, and we'll talk more about that again later. Cleavage and fracture are looking at how minerals break apart. So if I were to take a mineral and break it into pieces, cleavage would mean that I would be left behind with minerals that have very flat planes to them, more like a box or a sheet of paper, something like that. Whereas fracture means where you might get some smooth planes. They're not one plane, meaning they might be curved, or they might look more like flint or something like that. So we'll investigate that later. Density and specific gravity, what that refers to is, density. Specific gravity just is talking about the density compared to water. So hopefully you've added some of these additional pieces of information into your notes. And the next thing I'd like you to do is go ahead and look at the video about cave formation.